ABC Listen. Podcasts, radio, news, music, and more.
Take 5! The people you love play 5 songs they love and tell you why. Have I got a Take 5 for you today? Rockstar, human headline, and one of the most iconic songwriters of our time, Mr. Noel Gallagher. If this is your first listen to Take 5, you're in for a treat. It's been a radio segment and podcast for many years, and in 2022 became a primetime ABC TV series. We've just premiered our second season on TV, and I kicked it off in the UK with the man who soundtracked a generation with Oasis. Over the coming weeks, you'll be treated to special extended versions of these Take 5s exclusively here on the ABC Listen app. And if you haven't seen the show yet, jump onto ABC iView and watch for free. You can witness Noel in his London studio and go back to season 1 to hang out with Missy Higgins, Keith Urban, Tori Amos, Tony Armstrong and Guy Pearce. In the second series, you'll hear Natalie Imbruglia's origin story, go deep with Jimmy Barnes, get to know Gold Logie nominated actor Mark Cole-Smith, witness the sheer determination of G-Flip, and listen to the interview Lin-Manuel Miranda said himself was the best he's ever done. But we're beginning with a classic rock and roll tale of rags to riches. The story of a young lad from Manchester who dreamed of being a star and got it all and more. Oasis burst into the mid-90s as Cool Britannia exploded all over the world. With his brother as lead singer and with a knack for writing anthemic indie hits, Noel led the band to record-breaking gigs, sold millions of albums, and had some very public family bust-ups. At his heart, Noel's a fan, a kid who idolised the songs on the record player and worshipped those who wrote them. And you'll hear this throughout our conversation. Every Take 5 is based around a theme. It's been like that since day dot. It's kind of a way for my guests to pick songs around an idea, see their life through a certain prism. And for Noel, that theme was escape. Growing up in a council estate in the north, music was his escape. He'd be transported by older kids' records and dance till dawn at the infamous Hacienda nightclub. But even as his fame grew and he moved to the big houses in the leafy parts of London, that wish for music to whisk him away remained. You can hear through this epic chat what a grounding and balancing force these songs have had in his life. I've seen heaps of chats with Noel over the years, and in his studio that day, it just felt different. His shoulders relaxed. He was in reflective mode. He was talking about his favourite songs, and he came ready to share. Noel just released a brilliant solo album with his high-flying birds. It's called Council Skies. It captures that wide-eyed wonder of the kid in the flats dreaming of something better. And it felt like the perfect time to look back and ahead in his life. And a heads up, there is a lot of strong language in this episode, and also some of the best stories you'll hear. Settle in for my uncut conversation with Noel Gallagher. We headed to the UK for this Take 5, and on a sunny spring day, burrowed into King's Cross and a very special space for Noel.
We're in my studio, Lone Star, in North London. Is it North London? It is North London. Yes, it is. Yeah.
How long have you been here?
Started to build it in 2018, and then it kind of came to a bit of a standstill because of the pandemic. And then it was finished in the back end of 2020, and we started recording January 21.
Straight in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was the new record was all recorded and mixed here. Bulk of it was written here.
So this is the new album, Council Skies, is the first record that you've created in your own space.
Yeah. It's the first studio I've had, which is mine. Oasis had one in the back end of or the early 2000s, way out in the country somewhere. But this is the first one that's mine. It's got all my stuff in it. All the stuff that you see here, I've been collecting it for years. It's been in storage units and around various spare rooms for years, so it's nice to gather it together, and it's beautiful. It's a great place to be.
So excited to hear about the 5 songs you've chosen for your Take 5.
Mm-hmm.
What's your first choice?
So when I was asked to do it, and the theme of escape, I was thinking, well, what songs do I listen to that down the years have transported me to another place? And you might not think it by choosing Pink Floyd, Nobody Home.
There'll be nobody home. I got the obligatory
From one of the great albums of my life, The Wall, which is angst-ridden to say the least. So it's not like trippy Pink Floyd, you know. It's darkish. But I gotta say, this song, I can play it on the guitar really, really well. And I'd love to cover it one day. And I sing it a lot. And you only really get to know songs, I think, or I do anyway, when you learn how to play them and you get in, and you kind of seem to have more of a personal relationship with it. But this song, I don't know. It's just got a mood of, it's kind of a darkish mood, and I'm not really a dark, moody kind of person. Although people who are around me would probably disagree, but I don't think I am anyway. It just takes me to quite a sad place actually. And I wouldn't cast myself as a sad person, but it's a tale of a guy who's of a rock star. Obviously, the tale of The Wall. I don't know whether you know the story more.
But tell me, for anybody who doesn't know, what's the concept?
Well, it's about a rock star called Pink who's having some kind of, if I remember it correctly now, some egomaniacal drug-induced breakdown. And this song, he's kind of calling back home, and nobody's ever picking up the phone, which is it's a beautiful concept. And Roger Waters is, for me anyway, particularly on this record, the songs are so simple and so direct, and he's a fucking great songwriter. Mm. The big Pink Floyd songs, Wish You Were Here, and Shine On You Crazy Diamond, and all of Dark Side of the Moon are, it's high intellectual art, which me as a working class guy spoke to me as well. So he's an amazing dude. I'd love to meet him and tell him that. But I love The Wall, and I love this. I love all of The Wall, but could have picked any of the tracks, Comfortably No More, On the Run, or Another Brick in the Wall, all of them. I love that album. It's one of my favourite ever records. I know all the words from start to finish, and I've actually sat and sang it all, and I can play it all on the guitar. But this song in particular is a favourite of mine.
Did you listen to this when it first came out? Were you listening to this when you were a little kid growing up in Manchester?
Well, it came out in 79, I believe. So I wouldn't have been listening to it when it came out. I would have got onto it after the fact. And it would have been through older guys, like friends, older brothers, who were all into kind of Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and all that. So, but it struck me, the album, I got it immediately, even at a young age. So I would have been maybe 15 or 16 when I first would have heard it. And obviously at that age, you don't really understand what it's about. It's just into the songs. But the older that I've got, the more the songs have more meaning, But I would have gotten onto it after the fact, yeah.
For you, as well as someone who's experienced life as a rock star, who continues to experience that life, but then hearing it, understanding it before any of that happened, and that gaining greater meaning, do you ever see yourself in that character of Pink, of the main character of The Wall?
As a rock star, you do kind of have a relationship with drugs at some point, but I never had a problem with them, in the sense that they were destructive for me. I fucking loved it. I had a great time on it. I genuinely did. I know that's not what people want to hear, but they were fucking amazing times. And I only gave them up because I'd done them all. There was none left.
Needed new challenges.
They're all gone. It's just like, well, fuck it, someone put the kettle on. Is it about Roger himself? I don't know. Once you get into that record, it's not something I've ever experienced, but I know from reading about it, Roger Waters did have this relationship with his audience where he felt that they weren't listening to his stuff. They were kind of getting into it too much, kind of thing. But yeah, well, rockstar, you can become isolated because you retreat into, I guess when you get to that level of 70s rock stardom, you are isolated from society somewhat, or you would have been in the 70s. It's not like that now. It's a bit more different now. I can go to the supermarket and do a shop for the weekend and nobody will bat an eyelid.
So even different from the 90s where you were being hounded outside your house.
Well, when you're young, you don't second guess anything. You know, I can't remember ever going to the shops in the 90s. Ever. I don't know. Things just appeared in the house and that was it. I don't even know who bought them. You know, someone asked me at the beginning of the end of the 90s how much a pint of milk was, and I was like, I had no idea. It's like 35 pence. They were like, fucking hell, it might have been in the 50s, you know. But no, I've never been one of those. I like to get out in and amongst it. You know what I mean? I do my, you know, particularly now. I mean, I do my own shopping now, and you know, I think sometimes people get a bit disappointed when they bump into you buying soup. You know, they don't want you to inhabit the same supermarket queue as they do.
The real world.
Because, yeah, they think you're on a private jet somewhere, you know, with hookers, which frankly is where I should be, right? But I'm fucking buying, you know, brown rice or salmon, you know, and they're like, I can sense the disappointment in them. You know, I've been asked many a time in a supermarket, what are you doing here? We're waiting for a fucking taxi. What do you think I'm doing? I'm fucking doing the shopping. You do your own shopping? I'm like, yeah, to fire my butler, yeah. You know, it's another thing I should have. Yeah, I've never been one of those kind of living in a huge mansion kind of rock stars. I like living in the city. I like getting in amongst it. I think it's good for the soul.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't really want to know how your garden grows, 'cause I just want to fly. Lately, did you ever feel the pain in the morning rain as it soaks you to the bone?
Well, where are we heading to next?
The next song is by one of my favourite bands of all time, The Smiths. Obviously, they're from Manchester. And again, another song by an act. I could have picked all of them, really. They mean so much to me. They meant so much to me growing up. Still do now. All these songs that I've picked are songs I like to sing, you know.
Sing me to sleep, sing me to sleep. I'm tired and I want to go to bed. Sing me to sleep, sing me to sleep.
I didn't realise this song was about suicide for years after, you know. I just actually thought it was kind of a lullaby to sing oneself to sleep. Turns out it's about suicide, you know. But I think all the great songs have a dual meaning. But it's such a beautiful piano kind of ballad that has this kind of piano thing that goes round and round almost on a loop. And, you know, in Johnny's arrangement is just stunning. You know, it's up there. To me anyway, the Smiths are up there with the Beatles. I don't care what anyone says. And in Morrissey, you've got, if push comes to shove, one of the top 5 lyricists of all time. He's up there with Jagger and Lennon and Bob Dylan and all that. He's far out, you know. And this is a B-side of Sheila Take a Bow, I believe, which is another great thing about the Smiths and bands from that era. Like, singles don't really exist anymore. You know, it's all streaming and fucking, you know, nobody releases singles. But back in the day, what made the Smiths great, what made Oasis great, was you would get these singles, and on the flip side, or on the B-side, whatever you want to call it, were these songs that were equally as good as the single itself. My reputation was forged on that. So was the Smiths, so were the Jam. So it was an important thing. But yeah, this song, again, it's, you know, it takes me to somewhere that I don't generally go to in my day-to-day life, you know what I mean? I'm not really I don't get the blues, you know what I mean? I'm not nostalgic. I don't really live a life of melancholy. I'm quite an forward-thinking person. But with this song, it would stop me in my tracks. If it comes on, I've got something at home on a shuffle playlist. It would be the one where I would stop and you know, just listen to it. You know, it's amazing.
Is that nice to allow yourself to do that?
Of course it is, yeah. It's one of the great joys of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, to sit and... I mean, music is... It means everything to me. It's given me everything, given me all this and everything that I've ever wanted. And it's something I don't take for granted. You know, if music is one of the 4 things in life, 3 things in life, I'm only interested in music, football, family and friends. Music, football, family. Yeah, that's it, really. I'm not really interested in much, you know. I don't collect things. I haven't got any cars. I'm not like, you know, I don't have a fleet of llamas in the back garden. No, well, not yet anyway, in the back garden. But yeah, things like songs, when they start using tracks, they're important to me, you know. And when it comes on, even to stop and sing it in the kitchen is, well, it's quite the thing for me anyway.
Morrissey's lyrics, incredible, but also really quite vulnerable through all of his music. He showed a high level of vulnerability in everything that he did. For you, growing up in Manchester, a pretty tough town, as the Smiths did that sort of give you a sense that, I can be vulnerable too? I can find a place to speak about things in my songs that I wouldn't necessarily speak about with my mates, with people I know down the pub?
I can't speak for Johnny or Morrissey, but I would imagine that when Johnny played that thing to him, it set off some kind of mood or emotion. Now, when I'm writing, I'll only try and marry the words to whatever mood the tune is suggesting. So if you're coming up with a tune like Cigarettes and Alcohol, not likely to be about some fucking bird that left you, is it? At that point, in the early 90s, when I was writing that stuff, I was in my 20s and I was about to take on the world, and that's what those songs are about, you know. As I've got older now, things that, you know, they're a bit more adult, and, you know, the Smiths have some kind of, you know, having it upbeat tunes, and, well, Morrissey doesn't write very, well, not to my knowledge anyway, very kind of rock and roll-ish kind of boy-girl lyrics. They're very, very clever. I mean, you know, like the track The Queen Is Dead, for instance, is fucking punk rock, and it's about, you know, well, listen to it, you know, what is it about? You know, it's an amazing lyric. So I would imagine when Johnny came up with the thing, it set off some kind of emotion in him, and yeah, all great lyricists are like that.
Open the doorway.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah. I do it to myself. You're setting off a chain of events, you know, and then a song begins to reveal itself, if you're lucky enough that it does reveal itself. And then it goes through the stages of making it sound good and the melody's good, and then if you can, and I do it not on a regular basis, and it's something that I don't chase, but if you can marry meaningful lyrics to a great melody and a great tune, then it's gold. It's not often you get it. Not often I get it anyway. You know, sometimes my tunes will be better than my words, or sometimes the words will be better than the tunes. But sometimes there's magic, you know, and that's what keeps me going as a songwriter.
I think you've done it a few times. I would say often.
I'd say at the last card's about 18 times. Not that I'm counting.
It's a good innings. Yeah. You mentioned about those early days in when you were first writing songs and you're kind of projecting wanting to take on the world. I hear that in those early songs from Oasis. There's a real bravado, we're reaching for something. Whereas on your new record, it feels way more reflective. It feels like in some of those songs you're really speaking back to a young Noel, almost saying, you know, the doors are going to open and this is where you're going to go. It's going to be okay.
Keep dancing to the sound of the music is on. If you want me to stay, I can be the boy from the storm outside. Just wanted to say, darling, I'm not giving up tonight.
Yeah, well, it was all written in that, I don't know what it was like in Australia, but the isolation thing here was kind of it was a reflective time for everyone, because no one had realised a pandemic. What the fucking hell is that? You know, no one had ever lived through it before. So it's not like you could ask your grandparents, how did you get through the pandemic? You know, it's like, so there was a lot of time spent at home. Yeah, reflect. Yeah, and my family didn't really react that well to lockdown, so there's some songs that are and certainly sections of songs that are very personal. But yeah, it was a reflective time.
I can lend you a dream till we meet again. I'm dead to the world. I don't know where I've been. And if you say so, I'll bend over backward for love.
I think as an artist, you're looking for something to write about from a place of truth. You know, most of the time I'm just making shit up, right? You know, I'm making it sound meaningful. But on this record, yeah, a lot of it was coming from a place of truth, which is why it's hopefully it'll connect with people on some kind of level.
The Liberty ship disappeared a long, long time ago. We're searching the seven seas for love.
Going back to those early days in Manchester, you were growing up in Thatcher's England. It was a pretty tough time, particularly for the North. Can you remember what it was like growing up as a kid there? Can you paint a picture of that time?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything more soul-destroying than you and your brother and your dad and two of your best mates and both their dads all going to sign on at the unemployment office. Now, at the time, right, that was just life, right? You just left school and gone on the dole, right, as we call it. But looking back on it now, it's like, what message does that send out? It's like, my dad's got no future. Now, luckily for us, we come from this city which is steeped in musical history, and there was a lot of disused buildings that were turned into rehearsal rooms, and it had a great musical culture and a live gigging scene and nightclubs and all that. So it's fair to say that Mancunians made the best of it, you know. But the thing about being like poor working class is if everybody else in your life is poor working class, you don't know any better. For example, we didn't have any, my mum will hate me for saying this, but we didn't have any carpets, right, growing up in Manchester. And it's only when I moved to London, everyone's got floorboards. I was like, in London, it's seen as like some kind of like fucking status. Well, they've got these posh floorboards. Up the north, it's like, it's fucking freezing, you know. But yeah, if everybody in your life or around you, all friends and their family are all unemployed, you don't think about it. You're all in the same boat together. But yeah, we made the best of it. You know, it's like, yeah, we made the best of it. We have to. You know, there's nothing else you can do. It's either sink or swim, innit? You know, bit of petty crime here and there, drugs, plenty of them knocking about, get you through the day. Football, not that bad. I actually wish I was back there now, and I'm listing all the things.
The city itself, though, reacted. Like, you think about the bands that were rising out of that period, you know, the Happy Mondays. The Stone Roses. It seemed like there was this great sense in the music that was coming out of Manchester of possibility in really dark times.
Well, it was a generational thing. All those bands now, I myself, were all in our mid to late 50s. So it's a generational thing. It was Manchester itself is quite small, and yet even Greater Manchester in the grand scheme of things is quite small. And if you think of all the fucking amazing music that's come out of that city, from the Bee Gees to the Buzzcocks to 10cc to Joy Division. New Order. I mean, the list is virtually endless, you know. All those bands' music is quite uplifting. So there's a lot of defiance in the sound of Manchester. But it was so lucky to grow up there, to be born there, and to grow up there and have that city and the people in that city and your surroundings and the atmosphere shape who you are is amazing.
Johnny Marr is the legendary Smiths guitarist. He's played with many other musicians in his time. He plays on your new record.
Yeah.
You can now count him as a friend. What's that like to be friends with Johnny Marr
I've
now?
known, he's been a friend of mine for 30 years. Since before I had a record deal, I knew Johnny.
Yeah.
He's great. Have you ever met him?
No, but I've heard he's a lovely guy.
He's one of those guys that after he's left the room, the energy falls out of it. He'll make you feel good about yourself. He's great. I mean, it goes without saying, he's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant guitarist and a brilliant composer. And, you know, he doesn't have to come and play on my records, you know, but I've said to him many times, if you keep picking up the phone, I'm going to keep calling you, you know. And when he comes here, I've put 4 albums out now, I think, in it. And then he's played on 3 of them. And I can tell you when he comes, he puts his heart and soul into it like it's his own tune, you know, and there's not many people who do that, you know. I couldn't speak highly enough of his attitude towards the guitar and that thing. His perception of the guitar and the guitar player is phenomenal, you know. And he's great when he played on 3 or 4 tracks. He's down here for a few days and he's great. He's got the best way of working. You know, he doesn't listen to the songs before. You don't send him the tracks and say, "Can you do something on this?" You just say, "I've got 3 or 4 songs." And he just arrives, sets his equipment up, puts his guitar on, and then listens to it for the first time, and then he just does it. You know, and it's amazing to watch. And luckily enough, we captured it on film. My daughter was filming the making of the album, and yeah, he's far out. He's amazing. I love him.
He seems to find real joy in just playing. And I know that seems like a silly thing to say about a guitarist, but you see all the people he works with and he doesn't have any qualms with collaborating with whoever. He just has such joy with working with new people and new ideas.
It's because he's the best. It is. He's the best. I've often wondered what it must be like to be the best, where you can just walk in to any situation with, you know, that thing strapped to you and just blow people away. Another great thing about him is when he's there, it's not, you know, it's not the Johnny Marr show. Do you know what I mean? He's elevating your song. He's not like it's, you know, he's elevating it, but it's very understated. He's not showing off. It's like whatever the song requires, he'll do. And he knows when he's got it. And then he knows when it's done, and he move on to something else. And like I say, he puts everything into it for you, you know. He's here trying to make Pretty Boy the best that it can be for me, you know. And that's pretty special.
His work on this song is beautiful, as you've already spoken about, Asleep. Lyrically, we know it's a song about suicide, even if you sort of figure that out later. But for you, as someone who strikes me, someone who never gives up, how does the lyric, the story of this sit with you? I
didn't know it was about suicide until recently, until I read it somewhere. And then it made perfect sense. I just thought it was, you know, sing me to sleep, I'm tired, I don't want to go to bed. I mean, fucking hell, okay, great. Me too. You know, me too. You know, then when you read it somewhere and go, oh, God, of course, it makes perfect sense now.
Sing me to sleep, sing me to sleep. I don't want to wake up on my own anymore.
But doesn't that speak to the universality of music, which is what you do so beautifully as well? Whatever you write about with Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds, with Oasis, with everything that you've done, that's yours, but then anyone can make it theirs. They can make it whatever they need it to be.
Yeah. All the great, I said it before, but all the great songs always have a dual meaning. I don't really like to pick my songs apart and tell the listener what they should be listening out for. Because I don't like it when I hear my favourite artist tell me what I should be listening out for. It's like, I bought the fucking thing. I'll listen to it the way I want to listen to it, thank you very much. So I don't like people say, oh, well, you know, it's about this, and when you think you should listen, you should think about this. It's like, well, okay, whatever. But no, with my own music, I kind of refuse to talk about it in a way. Because it just limits it, you know, it limits its appeal, I think. So as far as I'll go is to say things like Dead to the World is quite an autobiographical tale of a period of my life, which is pretty challenging. That's it. You're not getting anything more than that.
I can lend you a dream till we meet again.
It's a beautiful song.
It is amazing. Yeah.
It's got an eerie melancholy to it as well.
It's not unlike Asleep, to be honest.
Yeah.
I knew from the minute I hit on it's based around a couple of chords, I was like, oh, wow. In fact, I was sitting right there where you are. And it was at the end of one of the days and we were just wrapping up to go home. And I was just fucking about. And like, I remember saying to Callum, I'm going to write a song around those two chords. And it came very, very, very quickly. And I always find, I think I'm right in saying it's probably the same for all songwriters, that the ones that come the quickest are usually the ones that last the longest. Because you're not trying to write it, it's finding you. If you're, chasing a song around for weeks and months, they will end up being good if you're good, you know what I mean? But the ones that find you, the ones that seemingly have always been there somewhere. And Dead to the World seems like it's always been there somewhere, and I just was lucky enough to catch it.
It's one of my favourite songs on the record. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I love it.
What's your next choice?
So the next song is one of my favourite songs of all time, written by Burt Bacharach, but performed by Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. It's called This Guy's in Love with You.
Not, I'll just die.
And I first became aware of this song around about the time of Acid House. When we used to go to the Hacienda with friends of mine who still work for me to this day, Phil Smith and Mark Coyle, who co-produced Definitely Maybe. When everybody was going back to people's flats and carrying on listening to dance music, we were going back to their house listening to Neil Young and Burt Bacharach. And what first fascinated me about this song, I don't know anything about Burt Bacharach, far less Herb Alpert. I thought it was called The Sky's in Love with You, which I thought was an amazing cosmic fucking... You see the sky's in love with you. I was like, fucking hell, what the fuck? That's psychedelic as fuck.
Especially if you're just home from the Hacienda.
Yeah. And then it is like, oh, this guy, oh, hang on, it's a love song. Oh, okay. And people would know I've ripped off the intro for Half the World Away.
I would like to leave this city. This old town don't smell too pretty, and I can feel the warning signs running around my mind.
An Oasis song for anybody who doesn't know.
Yeah. What another great B-side. And it's just a brilliantly romantic, perfect love song. And when we were doing the cover shot for Definitely Maybe, there's a picture of Burt Bacharach leaning against the couch. Anyway, so we're on tour on that Definitely Maybe tour in America, or was it? Might have been the Morning Glory tour, one tour anyway. And we'd been up all night in a hotel in LA with John Lydon, right? And we'd had a great fucking night. And it's the first time I'd ever met him. It was just like, fucking hell. He's one of the greats, right? And anyway, so him and his guys had gone home and we pushed on through and we were just having a drink in the bar at like midday the next day. And where the bar was, you could look through to the foyer. And I see this guy walking across and I'm like, sure, that's Burt Bacharach. And then was like, nah. And I was like, I'm sure it's Burt Bacharach. So I went and he was going to reception. So as I approached him, he had this bomber jacket on and it had BB on the back of it. And I was like, this is either the King of the Blues, right? Or fucking Burt Bacharach. And I went over and I tapped him on the shoulder. And bear in mind, I'd been up all night, right? So I probably I don't know what I was looking like. I mean, I no idea what I looked like. And he recognised me and he was like, oh, no way. And we said, oh, we're sat outside. And he came out and there he was, he was fucking just a Californian dude, and the reason he's got this bomber jacket on with his initials on because he owns racehorses, and one of his racehorses had just won the Dubai International fucking Cup or some shit, and he was coming back and blah. We were like, we're a lot of scruffy fuckers from Manchester smoking, and we were saying, so what are you doing? What are you up to? And he said, I'm coming to England in a few months. First gigs he's done in however many years. Maybe his first ever show was in London or some shit like that. And we were like, no way, where are you playing? And we said, we'll come and see you. And he was saying, I'm getting guest singers up to sing all my great songs. And I was like, no way, who's doing This Guy's in Love with You? And he said, you know what? Why don't you do it? And like full of lager and cigs and whatever else at 2 p.m, whatever it was. I was like, no fucking problem, mate. You just fucking call me. So anyway, I gave him, I didn't have anywhere to live at the time, right? So I was living out of a suitcase because I was rocking and ruling around the world. And so I gave him a phone number of Mark Coyle and Phil Smith's house, right? So anyway, Burt Bacharach goes off and does his thing. We carry on this tour. Unbeknownst to us, back in England, Mark and Phil are sat getting stoned a couple of weeks later, and their phone goes. And of course, as with all people like fucking Cheech and Chong, they just let the phone go to answer machine. And it's Burt Bacharach comes on the fucking thing saying, hey, it's a message for Burt Bacharach for Noel Gallagher. And they tell a better story of it than me, but they were like, fucking what? And they sat and listened to this thing and were like, I still think Phil's got the little cassette. And then they got hold of me and said, why is Burt Bacharach calling our house? And I was like, Burt Bacharach? Oh yeah, I gave him your number. And blah. And they said, anyway, look, he's coming to London on this date. And blah. And I was like, fucking hell. And I couldn't. So anyway, by the time I get back to London, I go in my office one day and one of the girls said, Burt Bacharach's people have just been on the phone. And I was like, wow. And they were like, he's in London staying at the Athenaeum Hotel. He wants to see you. And I was like, so at this point, obviously, I've sobered up and I've like, I'm fucking going to see Burt Bacharach. You're fucking mad. What? And they were like, well, did you say you were going to sing with him? And I was like, yeah, of course I did, but I'm not going to fucking sing with him. I'm not even a singer. What are you talking about? And they were like, well, look, you better call him. And I was like, no, I can't. No, that's not going to fucking work. And then I had a moment of clarity and was like, what am I thinking? Do you know what I mean? So anyway, I got down to this hotel and I'm in 3 minds. What am I doing? So anyway, I get to the reception and I say to the woman, I've come to see Burt Bacharach, Mr. Gallagher. Okay, Mr. Gallagher, we're just going. There's no answer in the room. And I was like, fucking brilliant. That's it. I've come. He's not here. I'm done. I said, just tell him that Noel Gallagher's been. Sorry to have missed him. See you later. Writes this thing down, puts it in the little fucking pigeonhole thing. I turn around and there's Burt Bacharach and he's like, hey man, you made it. And I was like, God, didn't I just? And so we go up to his room, me and him, right? We get in there and in this room, massive room, is a fucking grand piano, right? And he's like, do you like a drink? And I was like, I'll have 2 fucking bottles of brandy, thank you very much. This is a very stressful occasion for me. And so as the drinks arrive, I go to the toilet, and you know that scene in Pulp Fiction where John Travolta goes into the bathroom as Mia Wallace is fucking snorting heroin out of the thing, and he's going, look, just fucking go out there. And I'm looking in the mirror like, okay, just calm down. Just go out there, see what he's got to fucking say. Make some outlandish excuse. Just fuck him off. And then just disappear. You'll never see him again. What could possibly fucking go wrong? As I come out the toilet door, he's at the piano going, dun, 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 dun. This is a true story. Dun, 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 dun. And he said, hey man, why don't you come over and join in? And it's just me and him, no one else there. He's sat on this piano stool. I'm sat at the other end. He said, why don't you join in? I just start singing This Guy's in Love with You, right? And there's like one bead of sweat was coming down from my forehead, right down to the tip of my nose. And I was thinking, this is by far the most stressful day of my entire life. And I still rank it as more stressful than birth of children and all that. And heavy lawyers meetings, just like, no. If I can get through that day, I can get through anything. Anyway, finished on, he says, you sound great. And I was like, okay. And he said, right, we're going to do this gig. And fucking so, you know, we go down to the Royal Festival Hall. And so I bring Mark and Phil, right, who got me into Burt Bacharach in the first place. And as we're going to the Royal Festival Hall to sound check, Mark Coyle's got this nondescript, shitty plastic bag with him. And we're watching, there's only us in the venue. There's 3 of us in this huge venue. And he's rattling around in this plastic bag. And I'm like, what are you doing in the plastic bag? He said, I've got some recording equipment. I'm like, what are you doing? He's going, I'm going to bootleg the gig. And I was like, you fucking insane. Fucking guys invited us down here. And he's like, don't worry. Mate, I'm going to bootleg the fucking gig. Anyway, he bootlegged the fucking gig, which we still got. Sounds amazing. And there's a bit, we've listened back to the cassette a lot, there's a bit where we're all sat in a row and the gig's going on and it's amazing. And you can hear somebody come up the row and say, Mr. Gallagher, you're up next. And I have to kind of shuffle through the seats and go to the side of the stage and he does the big introduction, blah, blah, blah. And on I go and somebody hands me a microphone. And it was only then that I realised for the first time in my life I'm about to sing without a guitar.
Mm.
And it's like going on stage in only your underpants. And it was, again, one of the most stressful fucking moments of my life. And thankfully, it was before mobile phones and social media, so there's no footage of it, and there's very little audio. And I can bask in the imaginary glory that it was fucking amazing. And I'm sure if I ever listen back to it, it sounds exactly like a little fucking oik from Manchester trying to sing one of the greatest love songs of all time.
You've got the bootleg, so you can able to refer.
Indeed, and there's not. And when I hear that song come on, I do smile and think, what a great fucking episode all that was with him and that song and getting to do it and all the nonsense, the fucking meeting him in LA and all that. It's fucking great. And I met him a couple of times since, and he's a dude. And when he died recently, like everybody does, you know, you kind of listen to Burt Bacharach for a few days, and my God, I mean, fucking hell. I mean, there are some great composers in the world, and then there's Burt Bacharach. Amazing.
You see this guy's in love with you. Yes, I'm in love. Who looks at you the way I do? When you smile, I can tell we know each other very well. How can I show you? I'm glad I got to know you, 'cause I've heard some talk. They say you think I'm fine. Yes, I'm in love. And what I do to make you mine, tell me now, is it so? Don't let me be the last to know. My hands are shaking, let my heart break, but I need your love. I want your love. Say you're in love with this guy. Tell me now, is it so? Don't let me be the last to know. My hands are shaking to let my heart keep breaking, 'cause I need your love. I want your love. Say you're in love with this guy. If not, I'll just die.
You put him on the first Oasis record. So what did he mean to you to have that, I guess, statement of intention? Because that whole cover was filled with all the things that the band loved.
Well, I loved him, and I didn't think anything of it. It was just, but then people started to like, oh my God, he's rock and roll legends, easy listening, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't think anything of it, but it certainly set us apart from a lot of the other indie bands who were into fucking indie music, and the Velvet Underground. Nobody was really, would even admit to being into Burt Bacharach. I just thought he's one of, when people hear me saying I'm a huge fan of the Pet Shop Boys and The Cure and Tears for Fears, they always kind of like, no, and I'm like, I just like great songs, great songwriters. I don't care who they are. I genuinely don't care. So to me, it's not about whether it's cool or they're cool. It's the songs, and that's it. And that's it for me.
What's your next song?
My next song is by two French dudes, go by the name of Air, and it's a song called All I Need from an album called Moon Safari, I believe.
Yeah.
I hope I've got that right.
All I need is a little sign to get behind the sun and cast his way. All I need's a place to find, and there I'll celebrate.
In the spirit of escapism, which is what you asked me what these songs be about. It's a great song and it's a beautiful sound and it is amazing. But I was in California a long time ago, over 10 years ago, longer. I wasn't driving, I was being driven between LA and somewhere else. And we'd stopped to stretch our legs and I had it on my iPod, as it was then. Remember those things? Those angry little fridges? The fucking weighed a fucking ton and was just like, would ever do what you wanted them to do.
Little brick.
Yeah. And we stopped at some place which was it's either by a lake or by the water. I remember getting out of the car and the sun was going down. It was just one of those moments where this song was just, it couldn't have been more fucking perfect for this moment. And I've always remembered that moment. It was just the right temperature. The California sunsets are just, they're unbelievable, but that song has, again, every time I hear it, it's a song that will stop me in my tracks and it's not having it. The song's not, it's not, it doesn't make me feel any particular way apart from, they're deep. It's a deep, deep song without having a great deal of lyrics.
Yeah, the lyrics are quite minimal.
Yeah, I have no idea who the girl is singing it. I have no idea. The two guys are French, I believe. I don't know anything about them. But I don't know. It's just, it makes me, I don't know. It makes me feel, I don't know what it is. It has a real calming influence on me. And yeah, it's almost like it can make you feel high when you're listening to it. It's difficult to explain. It's got a fucking amazing bass line. And I do believe the guy that played bass on it would eventually end up playing on my last record, Who Built the Moon, a guy called Jason Faulkner, who played bass on the Who Built the Moon album. In a song that's got, not a great deal of lyrics, and we wouldn't really call the lyrics profound in any way. It's extremely profound to me. It's just, I mean, I do, you can get that with instrumentals, I find anyway, they speak to me sometimes more than great articulate lyrics, because there's space in it for you to project something onto it or into it,
Yeah.
Which is why I love acid house and dance music. You're not being bombarded with a verse and a chorus, and you there's enough space for you to allow it to, take over you somewhat. But I love it.
That time in 1998 for you, looking back at where you were at your life with playing with Oasis, living in Belsize Park, I think, which from an outsider's perspective and the stories you heard was a massive party house.
It's fucking great.
And I kind of think about this record, Moon Safari, and you putting it on as that sort of last album of the night or first album of the morning, however the night went. Did you enjoy that time where it was just kind of wild?
You wouldn't believe. It was amazing, really. When I look back on it now and think, not some of the states that we got into, but you would just think nothing of someone would say, a phone would go, one of the girls from my office saying, the car's outside, and be like, what car? They'd be like, you're going to the airport. I'm like, what for? Like, you got a fucking gig in Paris tonight, and you just fix up and go do it. You wouldn't think, well, I've been up for, 36 hours. You just go and do it. You can only do that with the power of youth and confidence and all that kind of thing. But no, they were great times. My house was an open house, and I used to get fans to go and do the shopping for us because there were always fans outside the thing. And they were like, can we get an autograph and a picture? I said, I'll tell you what, I give them a shopping list and say, if you go and get us that, I'll give you a picture and an autograph and maybe even a little cuddle as well. And they were just, I look back on it as just really fun, happy, hedonistic, carefree time. I didn't have any kids. I had a couple of cats who eventually had a nervous breakdown, I think.
What were your cats called?
Benson and Edges.
Why?
After the cigarettes. They're a pair of fucking lightweights. Yeah, no, the cats had a 1,000-yard stare by the end of it.
They'd seen things.
They'd seen things that no feline should ever see.
So hang on, what period was this? You'd released 2 records, 3rd record with Oasis by this stage?
Yeah.
So you're well and truly settled into that lifestyle. This is it. This is what you dreamed of as a little kid growing up in Manchester, thinking, I want to be a musician, I want to write songs, and here you are at the top of the mountain.
Yeah, amazing. And it was great. And actually, when I look back on it now, you look back on it with any regrets? And I was like, if I go back, I'd probably hit it a little bit harder. I just felt like I had a little bit of the fucking handbrake on, do you know what I mean? Because I was running Oasis, it was a big thing, do you know what I mean? I was a tiny little bit more responsible than most people. But if I could go back now, I'd fucking put the handbrake off a little bit, But no, it's great. It's everything I thought it would ever be. And then, don't know what it was. There was no big, huge trauma, life trauma or anything. It's just what period came was just like, well, I'm bored of this now. And then you did the thing and you moved to the country, and then the party just continued out there. And then all the drugs ran out and I was like, right, well, fuck that, I'm not buying anymore. And then just, got into red wine then. Ooh.
Did you slow down when you became a father?
Of course. Yeah. I'd given up. I'd given up real drugs by then, and and then so it was it was going to be a month, and then a month turned into a couple of months, and then by the time you've kind of got into it, just thinking, oh fucking hell, okay, I kind of like this now. I like this just being a little bit sozzled. All day. And then eventually it just becomes like a different lifestyle. And there that period from 1998, there was a couple of years which was a bit turbulent, but I enjoyed it. It's very telling that I've never got back into it.
Yeah.
And
you're still here.
I'm still there, yeah. And they were good. They were good years, got an amazing daughter. She's like 20. How old are you? 23. How old is she? 23, 24. 23 going on 35. And she was born out of the 90s, so I look at her and it's like, that's a pretty good thing to have created.
Yeah.
And it's like life changes, like the world changes, The internet happened and all that kind of thing, and the fucking, everything moved into like the modern era. Do you know what I mean? And so we had a pretty tight but big circle of friends. We were all around the same age. So we were all kids at the same time and all that. And everybody just, it kind of dissipates, and there you go. And you move on to a different stage of your life.
Yeah.
It's not an uncommon tale.
No. And it's good to do it with friends. It's good to have that same shared experience.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been one for overthinking anything. It's like things happen and you ride it out, and other things happen then. And, I've always looked at life. It's like the good times are not going to last that long, so make the most of them. And the bad times are not going to last that long either, so don't worry about it, And then there's the bits in the middle that you're just kind of cruising, and they're the bits that you enjoy. When it's neither up nor down, you're just existing, and things are calm. And I had that for about 20 odd years, recently. And it's been good. Enjoyed it. Life's been fucking good.
I can't believe it, but we're up to your final choice. And I feel like we might be going back all the way to the beginning.
Well, I wouldn't say to the beginning, but this is obviously, if you're talking about a musical journey by me, then it's not complete without the Beatles, who mean everything. They're like the alphabet to most of the guys that are friends of mine that are in bands, like Weller and Johnny, and the Beatles are the best. They wrote the best songs, they played the best parts, they wore the best clothes, they were in the best era.
Which song from them?
So this is, I could pick literally all of them. But I Am The Walrus. I like the fact that it's not on an album. That appeals to me, so it's not part of any particular concept. But I Am The Walrus, depending on what speakers you're listening to it on, I always hear something new in it. Or every time it's like, I never got that's what that radio interference was saying. How incredible. You'd be brushing your teeth and just think, I've never heard that before. And, Oasis used to cover it in the early days. I'm not sure how that came about, but we didn't have enough songs at the beginning to, play for 45 minutes. And I'd worked out I Am The Walrus, and if we extended the end, we could just extend it until we played enough to get paid. so the end would always. So what we do, we'd do the goo 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 goo, and then Liam would just walk off, and then I'd walk off, and we'd stand and watch the other three, trying to work out an ending for it, which they never did. It was just kind of, we'd be like, what? And that's it, and then just stop.
It's very clever.
Yeah, but it's quite, we used to do this like this heavy rock, not heavy rock, but like, I Am The Walrus is, above all that, it's a brilliant, brilliant sounding fucking recording. It's incredible. Ours was kind of like a punk version, not in its pace, but it was in your face. And it was and again, it was one of the things that set us apart from all the other bands at the time. Liam would go, I Am The Walrus, into I Am The Walrus, and people would go, fucking hell, this would be a laugh, And then it was the night Alan McGee came to see us in King Tut's in Scotland, when Liam said, I Am The Walrus, he was like, oh my God, they're actually going to fucking do this. And by the end, he was like, wow. And they fucking did it, you know, and they did it. But yeah, the Beatles are just, they're like the dictionary of everything for me, everything. There's not a month goes by that you're not listening to the Beatles, that I'm not listening to the Beatles anyway, or referencing them for something that you're working on. Or I'll do one of these things and people will ask me about, you know, pick your favourite song, you know, your favourite songs. You've always got to put a Beatles tune in there because there's just, they're everything.
That night you referenced Alan McGee coming to see you at that club. Was that the night where it all changed? Where he said, I want to sign you?
Yeah. And you know what? That night always held us, and me in particular, I didn't know it at the time, but because we never went looking for a record deal, we had Live Forever and Bring It On Down and Rock and Roll Star and all these songs, and we never went looking for a record deal. We always had that in our favour because we would always say, yeah, but you asked me to sign to your record label. That's why the music business has now flipped on its head. It's like people go begging to record companies for record deals. When we were about, the music business came to you, you know, because the artist was the most important thing or the band was the most important thing. So yeah, when all the chaos and the madness was, we was always like, well, we didn't ask you for a record deal. You asked us. So this is what it is, I'm afraid. So you're going to have to fucking wear it. And, but yeah, that's the night they changed everything. Yeah, we were, well, here's a funny thing. I met Johnny Marr for the first time on the Thursday. It was my birthday on the Friday. We went up to Scotland on the Saturday and met Alan McGee. And we arrived back in Manchester on the Sunday with an offer of a record deal. And it was like, fuck me. As weekends go, that is not bad. That's not bad. It was a pretty good weekend. It was like, well, they don't come along that often.
That ironically ended up being the final song that you would play with Oasis. You would finish your set and the last show that you played as a band.
Did we?
Finished with I Am The Walrus.
Did we? Right. Yeah, that wasn't that last tour was not happy. Nobody was happy at the time. The other fellas trying to rewrite history that it was all fucking great, and it wasn't all great. It was a fucking dreadful last year of Oasis, 2009, whatever it was a terrible, terrible, terrible time. Just kind of, yeah, it had come to an end. You could feel it, but yeah, I don't look back on any of those gigs. There's a couple. There's one in Argentina which is quite famous that we in the River Plate Stadium, which was amazing. But on the whole, it was just a ball ache, that tour. Tambourine player moaning all day, every fucking day about the price of fish in fucking Venezuela or some shit. And yeah, it was time to move on. It was time to move on.
You strike me as the kind of person that when you're done, you're done. As you said before, you just get on with it, one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. You know, you get one shot at life. Why be unhappy? In any sense of your life, whether it be in your personal life or your professional life or whatever it is. Because why? Why? You're just wasting the fucking precious thing, you know. So yeah, you know, everybody knows the story. It all came to a head, and I was cool with it. I was like, fuck it, you know, I don't need this to make me happy. You know, if I never write another song, I've written some of the best songs, you know, of our fucking eras, you know what I mean? So I was cool with it. And yeah, it's amazing that the flame is still alive though. That is really, truly fucking humbling when you see kids. I was up at the Etihad up in Manchester last night and, you know, a couple of young lads, teenagers, could only have been 1 or 2 when we broke up. We're like, fucking, you know, and showing me all the Oasis songs on their phone and all that kind of thing, and like massive fans, and we're like getting giddy, and it's like, it's an amazing thing that it stood the test of time. Yeah, there's not a day that goes by that I don't, you know, that I don't think, fucking hell, we did something really, really spectacular there. I still can't articulate what it was. Do you know what I mean? Because it was more, although it's the songs and all that, it was more than that though. It was more than that.
Because maybe you're gonna be the one that saves
You wrote songs for people to find a home in.
Yeah, but that's not why I wrote them. Do you know what I mean? Liam asked me to join his band, and I think the first couple of gigs, I was doing their songs that him and Bonehead were writing. And then it was kind of, I was not really that ambitious, if I'm being honest. I was like, I like playing the guitar and fucking, you know. And then Liam said, yeah, well, haven't you got any songs? And I was like, hold this. I didn't have any of the great songs. But, you know, I was like, well, yeah, okay, all right. Well, you play this while I play that, and then you play that over that, and you do this drum beat. And there was a moment where Oasis started to play one of my songs and everybody joined in. And at that moment, I was like, we are going to fucking rule the world. I'm going to take so many fucking drugs. It's unbelievable.
Well, today we've been travelling through 30-odd years of your musical life, your personal life, your life as a fan. That's an important thing, I think. It's just to still remain a fan and in wonderment of not only my music, but, you know, I'm still in awe of the Beatles and new bands like Young Fathers and Jungle. I'm still, you know, when I go and see them, I'm still like, wow, you know, it's like fucking, I never get jaded by music. Never get jaded by the people who make music and what it means and doing this kind of thing. And, you know, it's like, I wouldn't rather be doing anything else. I mean, maybe today, because I was out late last night, I'd rather kind of be in bed fucking drinking herbal tea or some shit. But on a day-to-day basis, it's what life is, you know. You're creating stuff for people to put into their lives. It's a very, very special thing, you know, and I never take it for granted. But yeah, to still be a fan is, I think it's the key. I think it's the key. Because it's easy at my age just to dial it in and go, well, these are the 16 songs that made me famous. That's what people want to hear. So it's easy just to do that. But it's like, you're like a dying flower, I think, you know what I mean? You still look kind of good and all that, but it's just dying. So I always try and push it a little bit, you know, and there's times when I've been in the studio and thinking, some people they're actually not going to like that. And you're just like, fuck it, well, let's see how they deal with it, you know. And I like to challenge myself and engage the audience. Wouldn't be around this long and still making records like Council Skies and people still being interested in new music after 30 years. If you know, if you're dialing it in, people know you're dialing it in. You know, some of my favourite people of all time, when they do gigs, I'm just like, I've fucking seen all that before. She's doing the same fucking 6 songs, you know. Try something else, you know, which is why people like Paul Weller will remain forever, because, you know, he's making fucking 4 albums at the same time you know, and he's, you know, if you're into him, you better be willing to go on a journey with him, because he's not making music for you. He's not making music for you to listen to. And I'll take my lead off him, you know. It's like, I'm not making music for people to listen to. It's like we're making fucking music here, you know, for you to think about, you know what I mean? And, you know, half the time people don't like it, and that's great, you know. That's great. You know, for every Black Star dancing or drum machine, there's going to be an easy now. And it's like, you got to I'm pleasing myself here.
Easy now, heavy is the head that wears a hollow crown. There must be something in the air. There's talk of revolution here, up above the clouds.
And that little kid that was looking up at the council skies in Manchester, did you get everything you wanted?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I was never a kid with a tennis racket in front of a mirror. Those people, they don't make it. You know, I never had And still, it's a thing that I've kept to this day. When I was young, I was like, and I picked up the guitar, I wanted to learn how to play it. And then once I'd learned a few chords, I wanted to learn how to write a song. And then once I'd done that, I wanted to learn how to write, some songs and then write some words. And then once I was in the band, it was like to do a gig. Then it was to get a record deal. So, I never used to sit and think what it's going to be like in 30 years' time. And even now, like when I left Oasis, it was like, right, well, we'll just do one album at a time. Let's make an album, see what it sounds like. If I'm into it, let's put a band together, see what that sounds like. If that's good, let's do a tour. And then, so I'm always just one project at a time. So I'm still in that space where I'm just like, this record. Then after that, we'll see. Because I'm prone to making life-changing decisions. So I wouldn't think that this is going to go on forever, even though it might do. Do you know what I mean? It's like something else might fall out of the sky in 2 years, and you might be like, actually, I always fancied myself as a middle-aged ballet dancer. Why couldn't I do it? Or a belly dancer. I certainly got the belly for it now.
What do you love about being a songwriter?
When that guy or girl or couple come up to you in the street and they will tell you about a specific song that meant a specific thing to them, which, of course, you can have no concept while you're writing it, what it's going to mean to people. That's what it's all about. That's it. In a nutshell, that is it.
Noel, thank you so much for taking
Pleasure.
part today.
Pleasure.
Loved it.
Thank you.
What a take 5. One of the longest to date, and you can see why. I hope you love that as much as I love being in that room. And yep, you can watch it right now on ABC iView. Next time, we'll be back in London with one of Australia's biggest pop exports.
I think because of early on in my career, having to kind of, wear a bikini for an audition for the guest spot on Neighbours and walk up and things that, and you could say, well, fair enough, it's an acting job and, I don't know.
Really? That happened?
That happened. Yeah, that was normal.
The Neighbours?
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Natalie Imbruglia broke through worldwide with her massive hit Torn. She sold millions of copies of her debut album and was in the pages of every magazine. But before then, this kid from the Central Coast had been Beth from Neighbours. She dreamed of a future on stage and done everything she could to get there. The years after her big break were a roller coaster. And while plenty of people think they know her tale, you'll hear Natalie Imbruglia share her own story across 5 songs. You can see Natalie Take 5 on ABC TV and iView on Tuesday, October 17, and hear the extended chat exclusively right here on the ABC Listen app. Don't forget, you can listen to hundreds of Take 5s, including Paul McCartney, Kylie Minogue, and that other Britpop fella, Damon Albarn, right here on the ABC Listen app and wherever you get your podcasts.
Take 5!
The Take 5 with Zan Rowe. Every week, hear the people you love.
Hi, I'm Joan Jett. Hey, this is Nana Cherry, and I'm taking 5.
Talk about the 5 songs they love. Hear stories of discovery.
And I heard this thing coming out of the speakers. I was like, oh my God, what is that noise? Wow.
And the songs that changed how they saw the world.
It just affected me deeply. I never knew rap could be that powerful.
It's like a jungle.
Join Zan Rowe and Take 5.
Life 101 with